Hi everyone, it's Rax. Diablo 4 Season 4 has been out for a little while, and the question that I've been getting by far the most lately, now that people have been playing for a while, is Rax, what exactly do you do in the end game? Like, I'm level 100, okay, we got through that part. I actually straight up don't know what to do. So, we're going to go through the end game of Diablo 4. Admittedly, it's really not that expansive, but I want to show you kind of my thought processes of when I reach that level of what I'm going to do next in the game, in order to keep going and see everything that Diablo 4 has to offer. So, the very first thing that probably thinking is, now that I'm 100, I should probably make my build as strong as possible, right? You're on Maxroll, you go down to the endgame variants, you look for like the pit and the Uber builds, you take a look, they might have some uniques or some Uber uniques there, and you're like, God, I don't have those. How in the world should I farm them? Well, there are a bunch of bosses that you can kill in the game that have loot tables for you to target specific items that you need. So maybe you need a Tusk Helm, or maybe you need a Yen's Blessing, or whatever it is. And when you've been playing through the game, you probably got a bunch of weird materials like this, the Distilled Fears, and these Living Steels, and the Malignant Hearts, and all this weird stuff. And you're probably like, huh, where in the hell, what do I even do with this, or what's even the point? So all of this stuff can summon bosses. There are usually two versions of every boss, the regular version and the Uber version. The Uber version is more expensive, but it gives much better rewards, or a higher volume of rewards. So most people just kill the regular versions right when they hit 100 to get all of their uniques. So there's no good way for me to tell you where they all are or exactly how to do it all, other than me just running around and showing you. But there is a beautiful little guide on Maxroll called the Boss Cheat Sheet. So on the left, it's got all the bosses, and it'll tell you when they unlock, which of the materials you're going to use to summon them. And probably most importantly, it's just going to tell you for every class what uniques you're going to get from them. So this is the first thing that I would start to be targeting is, are there any uniques for your build that you really need? For example, a sorcerer might need Fractured Winterglass for your Frozen Orb build. You might not have any clue where that is. So I just Control F and I type Fractured. Okay, Fractured Peaks, that's not what I want. Okay, Fractured Peaks, that's not what I want. Here we go. Fractured Winterglass drops for a sorcerer from Lord Zir. There we go. Okay, so Lord Zir is to the east of Kiovashad in the Fractured Peaks. Okay, I know where this is. Okay, to the east in the Darkened Way. And I'm going to need Exquisite Blood. No problem. So I go over here and I say, all right, I'm a Frozen Orb Sorcerer. I type in Blood. Okay, I've got lots of blood. And then I look at Kmart. There's Kmart. To the right is Darkened Way. Go in there, spend the blood, kill Zir. You might ask, how hard are these bosses? Like, I've been doing Nightmare Dungeon 45-ish. Am I okay to fight them? Yes, you're going to annihilate them. No problem. So that's the very first thing that I would look for is, what are the uniques that you need for your build now that you're 100, if you need any? And you look at the boss table cheat sheet. Duriel and Andariel can drop these super uniques called Uber uniques, which are very rare, and most of the Maxroll guides don't normally include them because most people can't find them. But actually, I have one of the best ones in the game. It's the only one I found all season, the Ring of the Starless Skies, which they just changed. But you can find some godly loot, more than likely from Duriel or Andariel, but they actually can drop pretty much anywhere if you're lucky enough to find them. You can actually craft them with something called Resplendent Sparks. If you find an Uber unique, and if you're just lucky enough and you don't want it and it sucks, you can salvage it for a Resplendent Spark. You can also get a Resplendent Spark. I believe it's from the first time you kill Lilith in a season. Uber Lilith, not the one in the campaign. From the first time that you kill any of the tormented bosses, the Uber versions of all those bosses in that little cheat sheet that we just saw. And when you complete the Iron Wolves rep down here, the little seasonal thing, that gives you 3 Resplendent Sparks. And I believe it takes 4 to craft an Uber unique. So if you do all 3 of those, and then you find any uber unique, you can salvage it and craft whichever one you want. You might want a Shaco, or you might want a Ring of the Starless Skies. Those are two of the very best ones. That's the first thing that I would do, is get the uniques that you need. Okay, the next thing would be the greater affixes. So if you did not know, see the two little circle things at the top, smiting death mace with the two circles? It means that some of the affixes on the item rolled much higher than normal. This essentially serves as your loot filter in the end game. When you're leveling up to 100, I mean, you just use whatever you can get, right? But in the end game, you really want everything to start having those little circles on them. And you might ask, well, Rax, half of your stuff doesn't have it. What happened? Well, I play hardcore and a lot of my characters die. So my gear sucks, essentially, is what's happening. And I also made like 500 characters. When you play all the characters, what happens is all your characters suck. But anyway, you're going to be looking for these greater affixes, specifically targeting the things that you're looking for in your guide. Are you dying all the time? Maybe you want a greater affix on life. If you can't sustain your resources, maybe you want a greater affix of fury per second. Whatever it is. But that's the next thing you're going to be looking for. So you might ask, well, Rax, how do I find these greater affixes? What do I do? They drop pretty much anywhere. So it's honestly just volume of items that you get, which is going to give you the most greater affixes. Running around in Helltide and chain killing the boss, I believe the boss spawns over here on this Helltide, wish there was an icon for it, is very good. Gives you a lot of cinders, then you can run around and pick up the chests. That's a great way to get a ton of mats or a ton of items very quickly. Nightmare dungeons drop a lot of them. You get some in the pit, not quite as many, but the pit drops you Obols. And Obols are way stronger than people think they are. That's for a couple of reasons. First of all, you can go over here to the potion guy, and with Obols, you can craft the elixir of holy bolts, which is super godly for a lot of builds in the game. But another thing you could do with Obols is you can go to the vendor and just buy stuff, but Obols can roll greater affixes. So, for example, let's say, like, okay, my whole character is good, but oh, my gloves suck, and I don't have a good greater affix, and I can't get the right gloves. But you can just run the pit and keep banking up your Obols and keep buying these gloves for 40 apiece. And eventually, if you spend a couple hours doing that, you're going to get a really nice pair of gloves eventually. It lets you target farm with Obols. So really, all of the events are good for it, but once you've got pretty decent gear, you should really stop bothering with anything that doesn't have a greater affix on it. So, for example, let's see, I guess this stash is a great example. I don't even think I have anything in my stash that doesn't have a greater affix on it. I don't think I have anything. Well, of course, uniques, but I just stopped caring about them. So what I'm not doing is I'm not running around looking for a sword saying, oh, hey, this mace, it's got the 3 stats that I want. That's great. No, it's not great. You're level 100. We're looking for good stuff now. This is an insta salvage. This is an instant, I don't even look at it because it doesn't have a greater affix. Keep farming until you see those circles and then start banking those up so you can look for very, very good gear. The next thing is your glyphs. I had someone in my stream come in the other day and say, Rax, I heard Paragon Glyphs don't matter anymore. Is that true? No, that is fake news. So if you go into your Paragon board, if you did not know this, so the glyphs level from 1 to 21, right? So let's mouse over here. From 1 to 21, there are 2 important levels. The first important level is 15. When a glyph is 15, the radius goes further on the Paragon board. When the radius goes further, it gobbles up more of the nodes and potentially makes it stronger if you've pathed correctly on your Paragon board. Most of you are probably just copying it from Maxroll, which is good. So 15 is kind of the first major power increase. But they can level up to 21, and it doesn't take that long to level it from 15 to 21. For a few reasons. One, the builds are really strong this season, so you can probably farm a very high nightmare dungeon, like 60, 70, 80, all the way to 100. No problem. Some of you can speed farm it. and it levels the glyphs so fast. Also because Blizzard buffed Glyph XP. So one of the first things that I'm doing is at an absolute minimum, all of your glyphs need to be 15. That's the absolute minimum. So if you don't have that, you need to be doing nightmare dungeons. And I'm sure everybody knows how to do a nightmare dungeon, but if you don't, you go over here, you craft a sigil, craft some nightmare dungeons, and off you go. I'm sure everybody knows that. If you don't have any sigil to craft nightmare dungeons, turn in whispers, and it will eventually give you either a key or enough stuff to craft a nightmare dungeon sigil. But if your glyphs aren't at least 15, you need to be doing nightmare dungeons. And I would get them to 21. It's not going to take you that long. It's really not that bad now that they buffed everything. And remember, you need to, I believe you need to clear Nightmare Dungeon 46 in order to unlock the pit, which we'll get to in a second. So that needs to be done anyway. Okay, so the next thing are your legendary powers. This one's kind of self-explanatory. I wish I had an example for you here, but I don't. But when you get a bunch of gear in your inventory, you're going to notice in the top right corner, sometimes it has like a little snowflake icon. When it has a snowflake icon, it means that it will upgrade your Codex of Power. A gold icon here indicates I have found the max power. So let's say I found an item right here and it had a snowflake in the top right and it was Steadfast Berserkers. Well, I've only found 15 of 16. I might have found a perfect one. When you see that snowflake, if you salvage it, then it will upgrade your codex, and then you can put that power on your gear forever. So, logically, it's very good to run around and do all those activities that we said, Helltide, or World Boss, or Nightmare Dungeons, anything. And whenever you're going back to town, whether you're vendoring it for gold or salvaging at the blacksmith, if it has a snowflake, salvage it. Unless it's a greater affix and it's a godly item. Because having the max level on your powers makes a huge difference. I had someone come in my stream, hey Rax, I put together the Maxroll build, I think actually perfectly, and I do no damage. Why? Well, I went to go look at their gear, and I don't know, they were playing Dust Devils or something, and their Dust Devil power was like a 1 out of 15. I'm like, you have the Dust Devil power, but you have the lowest tier of it possible. Oh, there's tiers to it. I didn't know. Well, yeah, there's a lot of tiers to it. So upgrading your legendary powers is massive for making your build stronger. Masterworking and tempering. So this is probably the biggest mistake that I see people make. Let's talk about tempering first. Tempering makes your character so much stronger. And in World Tier 4, you can temper twice on every piece. So if you look at this item at the bottom, the two little anvils, go over to the blacksmith over here and you select tempering, and you get to pick one from different categories and you get to put different powers on your items. People who skip this step cannot understand why other people are just doing so many magnitudes more damage than them. This is why. You want to look for the right temperings, the right synergies on all of your different pieces. Now, with the current way that tempering works, you can actually quote unquote brick an item. For example, let's say I need damage with berserking on my two-hander. That's what I need in order for my build to work. Well, you only get so many tries, and when you run out of tries, if you haven't gotten damage while berserking yet for the offensive category, that's it. You're never going to get it on that item. There's a lot of debate on how Blizzard should fix it. I'll probably have to make an entire video on that, in my opinion. But it's not just you find one greater affix item and then everything is all puppies and rainbows. If you brick the tempering, the weapon could potentially be ruined. But you absolutely need to temper your gear. You should be tempering your gear always. You're at level 30, you're at level 60, you're at level 90, you're at level 100. Your gear needs to be fully tempered all the time with something. It's not very expensive to temper at all, which is the complete opposite of masterworking, which is insanely expensive. And it's just a massive power increase. Make sure that you're tempering your gear all the time at the blacksmith. It's huge. The other thing is masterworking. This is the real Endgame leveling system, and you get the Masterworking materials in the pit. It'll tell you, you get the basic material, what's it called? Obdicite through tier 30. Then you get Ingolith up to tier 60, and then Neath Iron beyond tier 61. So technically, if you can clear tier 61 on your character, which is kind of difficult for, I mean, it's not free. If you have a bad build, it's tough to get to tier 61. If you can get to a point where you can actually farm this tier, you could essentially reach the max power in Diablo 4. So this is one of your main goals, if you want to get as strong as possible, is at least get to tier 61 so you can acquire Neath Iron in order to masterwork your gear. Now, masterworking your gear is just upgrading everything 12 times, and then it's going to crit every 4 times on a particular affix. So it crits at 4, 8, and 12. And then on all the other ones, 1 to 3, and what is it, 5 through 7, and then 9 through 11, it's just going to raise all of the stats of your gear. So 2 things are happening here. All of your gear, all the stats are just coming up. They're just rising. And by the way, you can masterwork uniques, as you can see here. I have crit twice in movement speed, which I'll explain in a second. But it's raising all of the attributes everywhere on your gear, which is just always making you stronger. And it's also critting in very specific affixes, which you're hoping are exactly the ones that you want for your build. So for example, on these boots, if you crit 1 time on an affix, it turns blue. So you can see on my 4th upgrade of the Masterworking, I hit life here. Okay, that's nice. I mean, I'm playing hardcore, so I don't mind living. That's good. Here, I hit the same affix twice. I hit on 4, I hit movement speed, and I also hit movement speed on 8, which is great. I'm zooming. But what I really wanted was damage reduction from close. I really wish that it would have hit there. So the way that works is you just go do the pit, which is right here. It's right here in Karagar, top left corner. You just open it up at level 1. Remember, you clear Nightmare Dungeon 46 to unlock the ability to get these resources. And then I believe these resources can drop in many different areas once you've unlocked them. Rune shards. They drop in Whispers and Helltide and Legion and Nightmare Dungeons and World Bosses. So pretty much everywhere once you've unlocked them. So you just go here, and it's just like Greater Rifts in Diablo 3. Just run through the rift and kill the boss. It won't be too hard in the beginning, but the difficulty ramps up a lot. And then you just go over here to your blacksmith, and you just click upgrade for as many materials as you possibly can. Let's see, maybe I can show you one here. Ring of the Starless Skies. Here we go. Let's upgrade this and see if we can get it to... We're at 5 of 12. You see at the top there, it says Masterwork 5 of 12. Let's get it to 8 if I have the materials to do it. And let's just see what we crit in. The thing I'd like to crit in is the critical strike chance again. So look at the numbers here. 7.3, 21, 23.4, 7.2. If I upgrade this, you can see all of them are just climbing up little by little. Let's go again, and one more time. Okay, big animation. I hope it hit the crit. What happened? I'm so excited. Oof, not what we wanted. Oh, well. If you don't get what you want, and again, it's kind of expensive. It costs the certain materials, and it costs a significant amount of gold. You can reset it. And when you reset it, it's going to cost you another 5 million gold to just try it all again and try to hit what you want. So to get a really good item with really good greater affixes, then hit the right temperings without bricking it, and then doing enough pit to not only masterwork your gear up, but masterwork your gear up where it crits into the right stats that you're looking for. It's honestly a huge grind. I don't know if there's a single person in the world that has a character that's just fully perfect everywhere. So what I would recommend for most people is one of 2 things. The first thing is you just masterwork up and you just never reset it. because it's raising the stats of all of your gear, unless you're going for like the world #1 clear, which what even is the world #1 clear? There isn't even a leaderboard for the pit, unfortunately. There's not really even that competitive. If you just level up, masterwork your gear up, and just take whatever you get, that's perfectly fine. Another good strategy is just make sure that it crits in what you want at level 4. So the very first time it crits, this Ring of the Starless Skies did not crit on the critical strike chance the first time I did it. I had to reset it like 4 times before it finally hit into the thing that I wanted. And then you just live with the rest of the results. I think that one of those two strategies are very acceptable for 99% of players. It's honestly the strategy that I do because I make so many characters that I don't have the time to. I have threats on my computer. That's too bad. I don't have the time. I'm too busy fighting threats on my computer to perfectly masterwork a character. But I wanted to give you a breakdown of what exactly a perfect build or a strongest build actually entails. It's getting the right uniques from the bosses. The cheat sheet will show you, here's Zir, here's Varshan over here. We got Andariel over here. We got, we have Duriel over here. We have Lightning Man somewhere right here. It's right here. Lightning Man is right here. And then you just Control F for the uniques that you need and go grab it. Greater affixes, super important. Level up your glyphs. For the love of God, level up your glyphs. That guy who said that someone told him that the paragons don't matter anymore, I don't know what those guys are smoking. Always temper your gear. And then at the very end, masterwork your gear. And did I miss anything? And get all the max level powers on your codex. Check your gear. Check your guy. Do you have the highest level powers on all this? So I don't have a max level Undying. This is 1.9%. Could be 2. Okay, so that could be better. This is not perfect. It's close to perfect, but it's not perfect. This is perfect. You know what I mean? Check your own gear and make sure that you're trying to get as close to perfect of powers as you can. Okay, so, once you've done this, where exactly is the end game here, Rax? What exactly am I going to do? Well, there's really 2 things that are really going to challenge you. The first thing is the pit. There's 200 levels of this thing, and I think the highest clear in the world as of right now is like 147 or something. And the difference between 147 and 200 is colossal. Like, no one's going to clear 200 unless they use like some bugged exploity build or some crazy mechanic is discovered. So, getting into the triple digits of the pit, getting past pit 100, you can feel pretty good about yourself if you got that far. Unfortunately, there's no leaderboard for it, so there's not really a competition for it. There is a little competition going on in Maxroll, but it's just not the same as if Blizzard would track it themselves and we could see how everybody is doing, what builds they were doing. That would be super cool. I really have no idea why it's not in the game. That's one thing you can do. The other thing you can do is go kill the Uber versions of those bosses. I believe when you go into the pit, you get Stygian stones, and the Stygian stones are going to let you summon those level 200 Uber bosses, and you can say that you've killed them all. You go kill them all, then you can feel really proud of yourself. Of course, Lilith is there as well if you want to go challenge her. And those are that's the main thing to do in terms of showing off your character's power after you've built a super strong character, is push the pit as high as you can and go fight the Ubers. Maybe I'll make guides on both of these on pushing super high. I just made a brand new barb and I got to pit 85 right now with practically nothing, but we can get in the triple digits, no problem, and push higher if you guys want a guide for that. This is what I actually spend a lot of my time doing. I spend a lot of my time doing the other things. I love making new characters. I like making new characters because I like to play all the different styles. Everything plays very, very different. Blizzard is starting to do a pretty decent job with the class fantasy. And I'm finding a lot of these builds that I haven't played. Like, for example, today I played Blizzard Sorcerer for the first time. Dude, Blizzard Sorcerer absolutely murders. At least, I don't know about it. In the end game against bosses. Sorcerers suck at killing bosses, but For speed farming, Blizzard Sorcerer is just absolutely deadly. Actually, the Blizzard Sorcerer is my fastest 1 to 100 right now. To me, this is very fun. The season journey is always there. I never know how to open it. SJJ season. Here we go. I found it. You can go through all of these different chapters and get different rewards here. People like to go through and complete the entire season journey. These last objectives are pretty tough, actually. So if you can complete all of this, then you're definitely blasting. The Iron Wolves, the season thing, and remember at the end of it, it gives you a Resplendent Spark. These guys over here have a massive, massive quest chain for you. One of the best ways to beat it is just to go to Helltide and just keep killing the bosses over and over. But getting the rep here and getting all the way through the Iron Wolf thing, and it's unique on every single character. Okay, so this particular character is very far through the whole process, but getting through this is another thing that you could target. And then finally, one thing that a lot of people like to do is just hunt for the uber uniques. Before, we used to endlessly farm Duriel and Andariel, still some of the best resources for this, but now we can craft it with the Resplendent Sparks that we explained earlier, and the uber uniques actually have a small chance to drop from some of the other bosses as well, and also have a higher chance to drop in actually the regular game, just playing through. So hunting these rings of the starless skies, hunting to finally have a Shaco, all those different things, a grandfather, a Doombringer, is something that can keep you entertained as well, at least until Season 5. So I hope this was helpful. This is the number one question that I keep getting. Rax, what do I do in the end game? And then I say, I don't know, like, go make your build and go do the pit. They said, that doesn't help me. It's like, how? How do I make my build? How do I get the uniques? How do I know where to go? What is tempering? What is masterworking? Like, how do I target stuff in the pit? How do I even approach masterworking? This video is trying to help all those questions, and you can let me know if it did or not, but that was the goal of this one. And again, I can't say this enough times. The way that I have the most fun in Diablo 4, I mean, I cannot tell you how many characters I've either killed or just deleted, but I have made so many 100s just trying different things and trying to learn how to level faster. That's where I get the most enjoyment currently out of Diablo 4's endgame. Now, I want to make one more comment on this, because it might sound like I'm just endlessly kind of just digging at Blizzard or just talking shit to them in a passive-aggressive way. I think this season has been fantastic. The reason why is this season, again, was just another big reset. They already reset armor and resistances and all those calculations. I think it was back in Season 2. Well, do you remember what we were doing last season? Last season, we had those stupid-ass pets, and we were still looking through a sea of yellow items for everything. It was an absolute nightmare. They have made the leveling experience a lot more fun. I'm not looking for yellow items anymore, and there's way more stash space now. Now the codex upgrades automatically when you salvage stuff. There's even kind of a loot filter in the game with greater affixes. There is something to do in the endgame. You can go push the pit or go kill the uber bosses, and Andariel is there now. And uber uniques kind of drop everywhere, and the mats drop everywhere, so you're not forced into doing one singular thing all the time. For this season being kind of a reset and them kind of dipping their toes into an endgame, I think the season was a big success. But that does not absolve them from the fact that I think they need to continue expanding on the endgame. I hope in the future, if I make a new endgame guide, there's a lot more things to explain. I hope there's, for the really endgame competitive things, I have no idea why there isn't a leaderboard. They're literally the people who invented the ladder. I think it was Diablo 2 that invented the ladder. If my history is correct, you can correct me if I'm wrong in the comments. It doesn't make sense. You don't need a leaderboard for everything. Diablo 4 is a more casual game. It's more for fun. Fine. Everything doesn't need a leaderboard. But how do you not have a leaderboard for the pit? That doesn't make any sense to me. Anyway, the season is going very well. I hope you guys are still having fun, and I still am. I'm still blasting every day, and I'm trying to learn. Honestly, I'm still hooked on trying to learn to level as fast as I can. I almost have it under 5 hours, and I will get it under 5 hours. So I'll keep working on it. Anyway, if there are any more guides very specifically that you would like that is just really confusing to you and you just don't understand it, type it down below. I will read the comments and I'll see if I can make some more guides for you. But still having fun, and Blizzard did a better job with this season than anything else that they did any other time in Diablo's history, as far as I'm concerned. Thank you.